Welcome to the fifth episode of Roofing Stories. This time we have Willem Campbell, who is the owner of All or Nothing Construction, somebody who has been, in roofing before, and then he decided to start his own company, and his company currently has 4 locations, if I'm not mistaken.
We operate in 4 states. We have 3
4
locations.
states. With 3 locations, amazing. And he's gonna tell us more about his, insurance restoration strategies. And I know many roofers struggle with restoration and insurance, and some say that it's a long process, some say it's a short process, but could you introduce yourself? We spoke a little bit before we went live, about your story, from Walmart to being a roofer to leaving the company to making your own. Could you give us some background information on that?
We mentioned those previous jobs, but
Yeah.
I started All or Nothing Roofing back in 2020, end of the year. Um, and basically focus on insurance restoration and mostly asphalt shingles. Currently, we're getting into the commercial side of things a lot more here this last year, which has been great. So, but yeah, I mean, you mentioned we were just talking about one of my first job. I was not always in roofing. I used to, work at Walmart and Hy-Vee and do all of that. And then when I finally decided to get into roofing, it was because I was broke. I mean, I had just dropped out of college, and so I was looking at what to do to make some money. And my buddy Quentin, shout out to Quentin, he came to me one day and was like, "Listen, man, you seem miserable. You should come do what I do. Like, I sell roofs and I have a good time doing it, and I'm making good money." At the time, when I was like 20 years old, the company that we went to work for only paid $900 a roof, flat rate, no matter how big it was. It was 50 squares, $900. If it was 15 squares, $900. So at the time, I thought I was making great money, and then I realized, about a year in, well, man, you're getting the short end of things here. You need to find a new company to work for. And work with. So started working for a different company that I won't name here, but I worked there for just over a year. Did really, really well. I mean, I made way more money than I had in even.
You muted.
I got to have a phone call. I put it on do not disturb.
Nice.
But no, I made great money there until the end of it. When winter hit, basically they terminated my contract and held all the commissions that were unpaid. It was $500,000 in unpaid commissions, right? So 50 grand or so, which obviously is a lot of money. But I had luckily saved up enough that I could start my own thing and I could fund the first 5 or 6 jobs and not have to worry about it all that much, right?
Yep.
So, and luckily I knew, because of the style that of leadership and project management, I guess the duties we had, right? I knew everything from first inspection, door knocking, first inspection, to ordering materials, to building the estimates, to invoicing, everything. So in my mind, I said, if I can do $1.5 million here, what can I do for myself? And so that's what started it all back then in 2020. Yeah.
I see. So this sort of company, I see that your company has been founded in 2020, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
On your profile, and you're already in 4 different states, which is pretty much one state each year. Like, that's some sort of explosive growth, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm mistaken. What is the reason why you guys grew so fast?
Part of it is connections. Obviously, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, right? So I spent 22-ish years there. I knew a bunch of people, right? And then when I moved to Des Moines, when I went to work for the second roofing company, I obviously made a lot of connections there, right? And part of the group that I was working with there, we were going to move to Kansas City and start this thing as a group, right? And I ended up they ended up backing out like the week before we were supposed to pull the trigger on everything. I'd already signed a lease and everything else. So, I was here. I had to be here. And then just with those connections and the crews I had developed relationships with and everything else, I already had the skeleton of it set. I just had to really,
Mhm.
execute on it.
Yeah.
So it's been good. I mean, other than that, it's just licensing. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because of the location of, with Kansas City, we have access to both Kansas and Missouri
Yeah.
extremely easily. So
Mhm. Right. So what was the revenue, if you don't mind me asking, in the first year, and what is it now? And what is the main factor besides, the experience you brought to the revenue
yeah,
growth?
yeah, absolutely. Year one, we did 1.2 million. And year two, we did 2.3 million. And last year in 2023, we did 5.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been amazing. I mean, there's been growing pains, obviously, with that kind of explosion of business. But yeah, no, it's been awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So how does All or Nothing Construction currently generate leads? What would you say is the main factor of, or way of getting clients for your company at the moment?
We bang doors. We
Door
knock on a
knocking?
lot of doors. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
most of it is door to door sales. Obviously, we use local service ads and such for call in leads and whatnot. But yeah, a vast majority of our business comes from knocking doors,
Mm-hmm.
doing free inspections, and then walking people through the insurance
Yeah,
process.
yeah. Previous, a guest on the podcast, Trey. Maybe you checked it out, maybe you didn't. We discussed, we both hate door knocking. I mean, of course, but it seems to be your primarily, lead generation source. How do you, get these leads? I mean, I imagine by knocking doors, that's a harder way to sell than having an inbound lead from LSA, or maybe I'm mistaken. Could you share what is the main
It's
reason why you are so successful in door knocking?
so part of the reason I'm so successful in the door knocking area is because that's where I started. Right
Mm-hmm.
when I started with Premier Roofing back in the day, and that's how they pay. I mean, you didn't get leads. There was no leads. You went and you knocked doors. So that's
Yeah.
what I was introduced to. Right, I was used to grinding out 100, 200 doors a day
Mm-hmm.
to make bills. You know what I mean? Especially at paying $900 a roof, you got to really grind it out to make anything shake. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's what I was accustomed to. That's what I was originally trained in, which is why we're so good at it. Now, honestly, I love local service ads. Okay, I do. They're great, and I wish, and as we are in business, our phone will ring even more just from the reputation, right?
Yep.
Um, but door knocking is the most direct marketing that you could ever do, right? You're getting a customer who wants your service, right? Because who's going to turn down a free inspection, right?
Nobody,
Obviously,
huh?
some people will, right? And they do, right? But in reality, that's because they don't know you or they don't trust you or whatever. But most people, if you have, any kind of charisma or you can, like smile and nod and, get through the interaction, it's a free inspection. If they have any reason to suspect that there may be even a little damage, why wouldn't I take this opportunity to get my free inspection?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we operate in heavy storm markets. So we get storms every year, if not every other year, typically, that are fairly large, right? And multiple times a year.
Yeah.
So the chances that they have damage is going to be high, especially we're utilizing software like Hail Trace and such.
Mm-hmm.
And RoofLink has their own weather tracking data, our CRM, that help us, do that more accurately. But I mean, it's as direct as it gets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. So, do you think, that as we move in the future, these online ways of getting clients will increase or decrease? Or what is your stance currently on using those digital platforms for promoting your business? Do you think that door knocking is where it ends, the main traffic source, or do you think that there is something in this whole marketing thing? Because I imagine your DMs are getting flooded daily by marketing guys.
Marketing, yeah. I mean, yeah, of course, marketing guys reach out
Yeah.
10 times a day, it seems like. But no, marketing has its place, right? Brand recognition is huge. Like people have to know who you are before you even approach the door, right? That makes it even easier for us to go door knock, right? They've seen our sign on the interstate. They've heard our voice or seen our logos on the TV or whatever, right? Because we do these things for marketing as well. Um, but the guys who go, I think that door knocking is always going to have its place because the guys that are the hungriest are going to go find the business. They're not going to wait for it. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's what we like to see when we bring somebody on. We want them to go find it, right?
Yeah, I
Go hunt
mean,
for it, be hungry.
it definitely
Well,
builds, door knocking definitely builds confidence, I would say, and probably improves the sales skills the most, right? Because
100%.
you get instantly you get the prospect and you need to sell him right here and then. And I imagine it can be stressful, but it builds the best sales guys you can have, right?
Well, and it does, but the thing is too, is we're not high pressure sales guys, right?
Yeah.
We're not out here to, pressure somebody into working with us. We are offering a free inspection and we're educating them, right? Hey, this is the kind of damage you have. This is what's typically looked for. We believe this will get approved,
Mhm.
right? We're not adjusters. We don't read policies, don't do any of that, but we've got a pretty good eye for what's damaged by a storm and what's not, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's our thing.
You're
That's what
big into insurance, and as you said, you do everything insurance related, and insurance restoration is your primary, you know, way of doing things, right? And I know many of roofing contractors struggle with insurance. Could you rank your top 5 insurance companies to work with?
top 5 insurance companies to work
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Um, Shoot,
Which one are the best and easiest?
Chubb Insurance is always number one. I mean, anyone who's worked with Chubb knows that you don't. It's the smoothest process in the world.
Okay.
Of the typical insurance companies though that people have, um, right now, and this is probably controversial outside of I guess Missouri, but I love Liberty Mutual Safeco right now.
Hmm.
Um, they've been by far the best to work with for
Hmm.
us personally.
Yep.
Um, Other than that, I mean, they all kind of fall in the same category, man. Which other than State Farm, which is just horrible, they all kind of fall in that range. And it really depends on the adjuster, depends on the supervisor, and they can on how far you're going to get.
Yeah.
We make it a point, like I said, we educate homeowners throughout the entire process and explain to them what their rights are,
Hmm.
as far as we are allowed to within the law, right?
Yeah.
Because there are laws that govern this whole industry, obviously. So homeowners, once they're told about their right to appraisal, meaning if there's a disagreement between the contractor and the insurance company on the cost or the total price, that a third party can decide that. That's usually the route they go because obviously they rather do that than pay the difference,
Yeah. For sure.
right? So and that's worked very well for us to utilize that and actually push things all the way through the process,
Mhm.
not just settling for whatever insurance dictates is going to be
Yeah.
approved.
So from a time that you suggest, obviously, somebody to go through insurance and have their roof restored, to actually doing the work and getting it approved by the insurance, how long does it usually take? Do you struggle with insurance companies, or you are able to, get it sold as quickly as possible? Because, from my knowledge with the clients I work for, the time is around 2 months until they get the cash for their work. So I'm not sure if these numbers are correct or not, but as somebody who specializes in insurance, your times are probably way shorter, no?
It can vary. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have we've got some pretty large job. I think there's around 600K that's tied up and has been tied up for almost 8 months, right? So sometimes it takes forever. All right.
Hmm.
I mean, there's no doubt about that, right? Um, but majority of the time, from start, and obviously it depends on the adjuster and everything else and how, busy they are, but, and how, aggressive we are as contractors. But from start to finish, from inspection to adjuster appointment to, signing the contract, I mean, couple weeks. And then
Yeah.
from there to actually building, right, a week or two. And then from there, you already have the first check typically before the work starts.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So you're getting a portion of it up front. Now, the depreciation, the supplements, if you're not agreed to on the price, all of that, yeah, absolutely. I mean, dude, I have over $1.5 million in accounts receivable.
Hmm.
That's, over 60 days,
Hmm.
right? So that's the constant problem with insurance restoration work, right? Is
Yes.
that it's a cycle, because you have to be aggressive, and if you're not aggressive with your billing and your follow up, well, you're going to be left hanging for a long time,
Yeah, so
right?
what I noticed and what my clients are actually constantly saying is that they have really big cash flow struggles while waiting for insurance to actually approve it. What is your, play? I mean, as we said, right? You do insurance most of the times, right? Right? Maybe was it 80 or 90%, or maybe 100%?
It's over 90% is
Over
insurance.
90%. So how do you keep the cash flow going? That's the biggest struggle I have with one of my clients, and they struggle to keep the cash flow going. They're in a very, very bad spot. We got them like 20, 30 insurance roof replacements, but cash flow is absolutely horrible. Like, he's waiting for this money, but there's no cash flow to keep the business going. How do you manage to keep your business running while actually doing insurance work in 90% of the time?
Yep, cash flow is obviously, that's always, I think that's pretty much every roofer's number
Yeah.
one issue, especially when they're in insurance restoration, right? Um, and I, jokingly and kind of seriously, sales fix all issues, right? So
Hmm.
besides, we're really good at generating sales. That's part of door knocking. We don't have a down season,
Yeah.
right? We might not be able to build all year long, but I'm still bringing in jobs and first checks from the insurance company all winter,
Oh.
right? So there's no massive down. It slows down heavily, but there's no dead season for us. So that's part of it. But the other part is, man, we're just on top of it. We have our amazing office woman here, Emily. She's in here and she's following up with insurance every day, all day. That's what she does, right? As far as, hey, where is the, depreciation at? Where is this? Where is that? Have you added ice and water? Have you added this? I will say part of our process to help eliminate some of the cash flow issues is that and like I said, we're constantly following up. But when we have a disputed amount with insurance, so for instance, let's say we've collected, of a $15,000 job, right? Insurance has approved 15K. We've collected 7, but we're saying it's worth 20, right? So we have a $5,000 difference.
Yeah.
We are pushing to collect that undisputed amount anyways, right?
Yeah.
We may not agree on the price, but we have agreed on this last, $8,000. So send me that $8,000 while we argue for the rest,
Mhm.
right? Which has obviously that has helped us a lot, because we're not
Yeah.
just waiting for insurance to give us the
That's
green
definitely
light.
helpful, because any cash flow is beneficial. I have roofers who pay their workers, 8K a month, right? I'm not sure if that's a good pay grade, but that's how much it goes for, right? And when you built all or nothing construction, what was your biggest obstacle? Getting your company to what it is now. 4 states, 3 different companies, right? And what was the biggest, obstacle doing and getting to your point?
I mean, dude, it's cash flow. Cash flow is number one, right? Because
Yeah.
part of it is, as a new company, we don't have lines of credit. Like we have lines of credit, but they're not massive, right?
Yeah.
These 50 million, $100 million companies. I mean, shoot, even $20 million companies who have been around for, multiple 10 plus years.
Yeah.
They've got lines of credit with their banks and whatnot, and they can rely on those when there
Hmm.
are cash flow issues, right?
Yeah.
So cash flow is number one. I think the other obstacle would be just managing people, right?
Hmm.
Getting processes in place while also growing. As you always hear, right? The biggest downfall of a lot of companies is they grow too fast, So keeping that under control and trying to build a structure and processes all at the same time. Like I said, there was some growing pains last season, with subcontractors and just the volume of work that we had to bring on and bring in, people to deal with that. Obviously came with its own issues. So
Yeah.
those two things, just cash flow, and then with the growth, have an influence structure and processes as we go. And now they've been ironed out, things are a lot smoother,
Yeah.
obviously.
So, as a roofing and construction company, do you yourself prefer an actual full-time employee? I think it's V8 employee or V9. Fix me if I'm wrong, but or you
Yeah,
prefer,
W
hiring
W
subcontractors?
like a W-2 or 1099.
W2? Okay, yeah. Do you prefer doing that and having your workers under that, or you prefer actually doing subcontractors?
So we have both. Obviously, we have like production managers, we have sales managers and such that
Hmm.
are W-2. They're all
Okay.
W-2 employees.
Hmm.
All of our project managers are 1099 contractors. They have their own insurances. They have, they operate as it's a partnership, right? They
Hmm.
don't work
Yeah.
for me. We work together.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting. Usually, Trust Roofing, when I spoke to them, they do pretty much V2 all the way, right? For all of them. And my clients actually do subcontractors only. So it's interesting to see that somebody is actually doing a mix of both. And, when it comes to your company, what are the plans in this year? I mean, we are still, in Q1, right? But what is the plan by the end of the year for your company?
this year, this year we're focusing a lot on just getting things extremely efficient, right? Where it's smooth, and we have all those, like I said, all those growing pains are done. We anticipate going from like I said, around 5.1 million to over 9 million this year, just
Hmm.
based on, the recruiting, because we were heavily recruited over the last few months, especially over the winter season. We've got a strong team of guys. I think we've got 18 total guys
Yeah.
that are be out here crushing it, knocking doors, and bringing in work, as well as implementing, the different advertising strategies, as well as connections we've made, throughout the years. So, along with, like I said earlier, we're pursuing commercial quite a lot this year.
Yeah.
So
So you mentioned, that you have, now 18 employees, correct? I mean, you're planning to get them onboarded, but could you share your, you know, major, let's say, advice and tips on how to hire good people? I know many people struggle with hiring proper people in their business, and then it usually ends up being their downfall because they hire bad people, and hiring bad people can definitely destroy businesses, right?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I mean, just to clarify, we have 18 project managers. Those
Hmm.
are all 1099. They're
Hmm.
1099 guys, right? We've got five W2
Yeah.
guys here.
Hmm.
But as far as hiring goes, we have been blessed. I can't say it any other way. Indeed has not been good for us. All these, recruiting sites and whatnot have been very unfruitful, to say the least. All of our good like hires that have stuck around, that have been solid, are organic, right? Just people that they know, because we're trying to build a culture that is, a place where people want to be. Um, and it's I mean, we're doing something right. You know what I mean? We've got 18 guys here, most of which have been here for 4 or 5 plus months. We're not having that turnover of constantly cycling out guys. And frankly, I haven't had to invest a lot into Indeed, other than outside of, a few $1,000s of trying to hire and stuff. But uh, it seems like people don't want to show up when you do Indeed
Hmm.
interviews.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
get, you get like one out of every 10 shows up for the interview,
mhm.
and when they hear, the nature of the job,
Door
they're
knocking.
not super interested.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, like I said, our hiring we've been blessed with some really
Yeah.
good organic hires.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, when somebody is ready to do door knocking, first thing, you you for sure think he has confidence in whatever he does, right? So I think that's one of the main reasons why you have really high quality employees. I mean, me personally, I couldn't be doing door knocking. I would hate it. So maybe some other people, do that too. But it definitely takes some sort of the confidence to, yeah, nobody's gonna say no to a free roof inspection, but it still takes some convincing. It still takes time, and you can probably deal with some bad people, that are going to get mad at you.
Oh yeah. It's funny you say that. I mean,
Yeah.
yesterday, and it got removed already.
Hmm.
Google is awesome about this kind of thing, but we knock doors. That's what we
Yeah.
do. You know what I mean? If It's what we do. So we got a 1-star review because one of our guys knocked the door,
Hmm.
and the guy was unhappy, right? I mean, you can't please everybody. He was just an
Yeah.
unhappy, older guy, and he left us a 1-star review, right? And obviously, we didn't do work for the guy. It was taken down right away. But you deal with that all the time. I can't tell you how many times we've been cussed at, we've been yelled at, doors have been
Oh,
slammed in our face,
what was the
and it,
worst thing you dealt with?
oh, the worst one.
Yeah. Maybe you got shot at?
Oh, there's so many, man. I think the one that comes to mind, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes you get couples that aren't on the same page.
Yeah.
That's one that'll get you, right? So we knocked on
Mhm.
the door. Um, Husband, we talked to him at the door. Great guy. He's like, yeah, shoot, yeah, give me a free inspection. That sounds awesome.
Mhm.
As we're getting on the roof, the wife comes out, grabs my clipboard and launches it to the end of her driveway and is like, get the on my roof, blah blah blah, just yelling at us.
Oh wow.
Obviously, I mean, you get down and you leave, right? But we have things like that all the time. I, I could
That's
I could
crazy.
tell
Yeah.
tons of stories. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can feel free to say one more or two more. I mean, it's exciting, to hear those things because, that's, I guess, the downside because you never know who opens your door, who opens the door, right? For sure,
That's the exciting part.
That's the exciting part.
It's a,
Oh wow.
it's a new adventure every day. When our guys start, I mean, especially like our sales manager,
Hmm.
most notably, I told him, I said, dude, this is treasure hunting, man. Like door knocking is like looking for treasure, right? You're going and you're just following up on leads. You're trying to find the damage to the roof,
Yeah.
right? Find the hail damage. That's the treasure,
Yeah.
and then from there it's easy, right? Like, hey, look, you've got X amount of damage. Here's some photos.
Yep.
This thing should get approved, no problem. You
Yeah.
know,
They
and
definitely understand
take them through
it.
the
Yeah.
process.
So
Yeah,
you mentioned that this guy gave you a 1-star review simply because you door knocked. I have the similar issue with the client actually 3 weeks ago. They went to inspect their, I guess, fireplace or something like that. It was, and the roof as well. And because my client doesn't work with his insurance or credit provider, he had to actually refuse the job. The guy goes on his LSA profile and gives him 1 star and calls him unlicensed, which is a big issue. So how do you
right.
get rid of these bad reviews? Because ultimately, as we can see, those people will give you a 1-star review simply because they're unhappy. How do you get rid of those?
So as I understand it, the best way is to simply report it to Google and don't respond to it until there's a decision made,
Hmm.
right? Because in my experience, once you've responded to it, it's there, right? You almost cross-reference your own bad review on, to make it stick. I don't pretend to be a computer guy. Okay. I don't know how this all works. So
Yeah.
this is just my thought process. Okay. Um, because it's not the first time, right? It's not the first time we had someone who was unhappy that we knocked the door. At the end of the day, we just report the review as someone we didn't do work for. It either wasn't with our company or we didn't do work for them. Is the report, and it disappears within 24 to 48 hours.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you look on Google right now, we have 93 5-star reviews,
Yep.
right? There's not a single one. We've
Hmm.
never had. I mean, we do good work obviously as well, right? We don't
Yeah.
we don't have bad reviews, but the bad reviews that we have gotten are all from people who are, we either knocked their door, or we had one who did mistake us for a different company. But like it's things like that are just like silly things, right? Nothing to do with the quality of work or anything like that. So, and if you can't get them to go away, you just respond to them politely. Hey, I don't see your name in our system. Please reach out to our office if you have any questions or concerns. We'd love to address it. It's a bad review doesn't necessarily mean a bad image.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? You
definitely.
can responding to it can
Yeah, but
make you look
in this
almost more
case,
legit.
in this case, it instantly led to negative response.
Now,
So basically, yeah,
when you have like legitimate slander, like saying you're unlicensed,
yeah,
you're this, you're that, yeah, you call your attorney
yeah.
and you send a letter
Mhm.
or two.
Yeah, that's actually
Like
wise advice. I'll tell that to Robert. Because he had a client yesterday scheduled inspection. Then he calls again. He wants to cancel it because he saw a review that called him unlicensed, and nobody wants to work with unlicensed contractors.
now if depending on his state, and I don't know, right?
It's Alabama.
He can always respond to that with his license number.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? Typically, when you have a license, there's a license number to go with that. You can
Yep.
respond to it and say something like, here's our license number. I apologize, that you feel this way. However, this is not true. Here's our license number. Please go ahead and look us up.
Yep.
So on
Yep.
and so forth.
Makes sense.
That would be extremely frustrating. That would be super frustrating. I mean, I promise I've been.
He even, the worst part of all is that he definitely, called him back, and the guy was like, next time do better job of, getting, working with companies and banks, man. People are sometimes weird, and it's, I always said that working with people is the most difficult job ever,
It's bound to happen. It's bound to
Yeah.
happen, man. You can't make everybody happy, and sometimes people have extra energy and they feel like going out of their way to make somebody's life miserable probably because they're having a bad day, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I try to chalk it up to. Like even like when we're knocking doors, a lot of people hate it because you get told no over and over.
Yeah.
Like if someone's rude, they probably had a bad day.
Yeah.
Right. So like whatever, just move on to the next one. So
Yeah, absolutely.
same thing for
So,
that guy, but just might have to get in contact and schmooze him over a bit.
yeah, maybe definitely to the worst. So, during your time as the owner of the company, what would you say is your most proudest moment? When you felt most proud as the owner of this company?
From a business standpoint, I think that
Personal and business, you can share both.
I had man, personal is easy. My wife and I had our son 7 months ago. So
Congrats.
yeah, that's the best personal moment
Yeah.
over the ever.
Hmm.
But as far as business goes, I think probably the first really big commercial contract that we signed. It was year one. I
Hmm.
mean, that was awesome, right? Like it's like you signed your first it was $820,000. It
Oof,
was
that's
it was nice.
that's
It took
insane.
it took most of the year, and that was my main focus. But to be able to do that the first year, it was like confirmation from God for me. I was like, all right, I heard you loud and clear, man.
Yeah.
I found it. So
Hmm.
felt good. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. So what was your, I mean, maybe I'm, asking the same question because you already told me about this huge job. Was that your biggest job ever? Or you had something bigger than that in your career?
Um, revenue wise, that's our
Yeah.
biggest one to date.
Hmm. Yeah.
We've got some things in the pipeline that are over $1 million, and that's God willing, we'll get those contracts as
Hmm.
well. But yeah, that's our biggest total job, total number to date.
Hmm. Hmm.
So.
Definitely, definitely. So what is, I already asked you about the revenue goals, but do you have something in the mind when it comes to expanding to other states? Or you think you'll be sticking to grow slow so you don't mess up something?
Oh yeah, man. If I could show you, let's see. Can I flip the camera on here?
Yeah, I think you can. Probably. Maybe.
No, I can't. That's okay. We've got a whole map over here, man. We're over the next 10 years, I've got kind of like a future offices map here on my
Hmm.
wall that
Hmm. I
we're
mean,
looking to expand.
you can turn the
We
camera around and then you can show it,
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, it's far away. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna get there.
Okay.
But we're looking at like Oklahoma, Texas, Tennessee.
Hmm.
We want to expand south so we can keep that. It's warm, man. Crazy volume down there. We can
Yeah.
keep work coming in all year round, and then just expand into states that like Tennessee specifically because it's a matching state, right? I
Yeah.
want to operate in states where it's beneficial for us to do insurance restoration and
Absolutely.
be successful there.
So if you, because you are already expanding and you have this idea of expanding to different states and stuff, what would you say is the best state for roofing and what is the worst state for roofing and why, obviously?
It depends in what way you're asking, brother. If you're talking about total volume, Texas is where it's at, man. Texas, you get, you know what I mean? They get big hailstorms and they get multiple times per year.
So Texas is the best?
Colorado, Texas and Colorado, man, that's where it's at. If you're looking for volume,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Texas and Colorado. Don't get me wrong, I love the Midwest. You know, that's
Yeah.
Colorado's part of that, and we plan to expand there as well eventually.
Yeah, I work with 3 clients from Denver. They've
Yeah,
been crushing it, you
and
know.
I'm sure their leads list is just it's
Yeah.
going crazy. So,
But what surprised me is Birmingham, definitely in Alabama. It's been crushing it, but I cannot really compare Colorado yet because season is starting around 15th of March, right? So
right.
it's really not comparable, but we'll see when the season really starts there. But I trust your opinion on that. And now I'm excited for March because it's been quite slow at the moment.
Yeah, it'll pick up, buddy. We're just getting into the season. People are just starting to just come off the winter, you know, and the weather is going to start coming in like crazy
Mm-hmm.
here in the next 2-3 months. So
Yeah, and
when April comes around, that's when it starts to get really fun.
oh, okay, that's exciting because you know I've been running this company for like a year, but I have started in November, and that's already when the season is closing down. You know, there
Right.
is really no there's no really a lot of jobs. You know, everything slows down. We cut the budgets and so on. But I'm really excited to see how it's gonna go. You know, this year in April, right? And what is the worst state for roofing?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm sure a state where the weather's all the same. Arizona.
Alaska?
I have no idea, right? So I'm just guessing.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
Alaska is not very fun to work in either.
Yeah, I mean
You know,
it's a bit too
I don't
far, you
know.
know. Got across the Canada, like it's horrible for expansions, no? Right. So yeah, I mean, so if you had up to pick another sphere of doing, you know, would you pick remodeling or construction? What or maybe concrete, something like that, you know? What would you pick if you had to expand your business?
Oh,
Where would you expand it? What niche, let's say?
new construction. I mean, you're building, you know, custom homes and you know, I'd love to get into like hanging steel and building bridges and all that kind of stuff
Hmm.
as the years go on. Obviously,
Some government work?
that's way off in the future.
Hmm.
Sure, man. Yeah, there's big money in all of that. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
so I mean, that's way
yeah.
in the future, obviously. Yeah.
So I already asked, you know, before, but I also asked the previous guest about this. But if you had to rank all lead generation for roofing companies, door knocking, referrals, Facebook ads, Google ads, organic, and lead generation sites such as Yelp, Home Advisor, and others, how would you rank them? Obviously, we know that door knocking is at the top for you, but
Yeah,
besides that,
door knocking is number one for me.
yeah,
Other than that, local service ads have been phenomenal. I mean,
okay,
they really have been really good. Uh, just as far as the cost from a cost perspective,
yeah,
I mean, you're getting, you know, there was one month where we had, you know, like 80 plus 80 plus call in leads, right?
yep,
Like, and that happens like fairly often in the middle of the season. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, and don't get me wrong, you
agreed,
know, some of them are for things we don't maybe take on. Like it'll be, you know, a run of gutters or you know, a piece of siding or a whatever. But a lot of the time we can turn those into full roofs because if they want
yeah,
their gutters done and they want 2 or 3 runs of gutters done, well, that's more than a deductible. And if we go out there and if we look at a house and they've
hmm,
got hail damage to it,
yeah.
go ahead and file the claim. I
You can always upsell
I
it.
would go as far as say as gutter leads with local service ads are like a hidden gem of roofing
Oh wow.
because with insurance restoration, because you go out there, you say, hey, I'm going to be out there, I'll inspect the property for you, not a problem, I'll take a look at your gutters. While I'm up there, I'll look at the roof too.
Hmm.
You're already up there. You
Yeah,
show them pictures, you come down, hey, for less than you would pay me out of pocket, you could file a claim and insurance would cover this. You pay $1,000 for your deductible or whatever it is, right? Depending on what the deductible is.
Yeah.
And you pay $1,000 for this deductible. Well, shoot, this job would cost $1,500,
Mm-hmm.
right? For gutters, you might as well get the roof and gutters done for the same, for less than that, for 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's part of the sell. It's a no-brainer. For less than
Yeah.
you would pay anyways, like, let's get the whole thing done.
Yeah, I guess I'm enabling gutter ads for all my clients now, I guess. All right.
I'm telling.
And
Hey, listen, if they know how to sell it, I'm telling
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I'm telling you.
Robert constantly does that in Birmingham. I mean, he's my most successful client. In January and February, he had over like 200 leads from LSA. And, it's Birmingham. He has only one company in Alabama. So I definitely think he does something right here. He always tries to upsell.
Yeah.
And while he's speaking to somebody, he's Googling their name. And in some cases, these guys are doctors or something like that. And then he says, "Are you a doctor by chance?" And that it just builds connection after connection. I mean, I guess he's a good salesman then. So, yeah, I mean, another question I have for you is, if you had an advice, and what advice would you give to your younger self? Somebody who's just starting the company right now and then. What is the biggest advice that would be a game changer for younger Willem, like 6 years ago?
For a younger William,
Yeah.
get an accountant on the first day.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. So it doesn't matter how much money you make if you can't track it, right?
Yeah.
And then just probably patience, man. Honestly, that's my thing. Is I wake up and I'm usually on 10. I wake up at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, and I'm at the gym, and then I work all day, and I'm in love with progress. Like, I love progress. That's what my passion is.
Mm-hmm.
And just so seeing it grow is fun for me. It energizes me. So that's, just being patient. I think that's the big one.
Mm-hmm. So patience is the key, right?
Patience is the key to doing this and doing it in a way that's stable,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't, it's like, it's control. It has to be controlled growth.
Mm-hmm.
You can grow fast, but you got to control that growth and make sure that you have processes and structure in place so that as you continue to grow, things don't get really messy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
Definitely.
if you don't have the processes, you'll get lost.
Yeah. So something that the way I like to end these podcasts, and something I forgot to ask my previous guests, but what is your question for our next guest? I mean, you don't know his name, you don't know anything about him, but what would you ask him if you had a chance? Anything.
I guess that would depend who it is, but my main
Let's say
question
if
would
it's a
be
roofer.
the main question is, if you got your accounts receivable down to zero, let me know how you did it. Because that's always the biggest thing, dude. Cash flow. Every person you talk to, unless someone's really got it down.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to that guy if you talk to him, but cash flow is always the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that
I'll ask.
dictates everything.
I'll ask, Trust Roofing, because these guys seem to be doing quite well. They have like 70 million, and he's pretty young. He's like 26, and he's doing very well. 17 million, Florida, pretty solid, right?
Florida's crazy, dude. You get hurt. That hurricane market. I mean, you're getting all kinds of.
I'm trying to get to me in Mississippi market right now, and Florida as well. We had I talked with a few companies, but I heard that Florida is a gold mine. I'm not sure, right? We're quite new, right?
If you got the licensing, Florida's a gold mine for sure.
For sure. Okay, so Willem, thank you for being the guest. I don't want to take more of your time. We've been going for around 45 minutes, but I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope that I asked good questions. I mean, I'm quite new to podcasting, so hopefully you don't mind, and hopefully you enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.